Hey guys, good to see you. It's 420 somewhere, and today we're going to talk about Laura Ingraham. We're going to talk about mushrooms in Oregon. We got a lot to talk about. But let's start with the mushroom thing because that's kind of exciting. So Oregon, as everybody knows, in 2020, they have voted to decriminalize all drugs. They had voted to create a therapy for mushrooms in the state. It's taken a while for them to kind of get that up and running. They're still trying to get it up and running. And in 2023, it's expected to finally start. They have now unveiled the first rules that they've set for the program. They had this big public comment in April of this year, and a lot of the rules I think were kind of based around that, around the comments they got at the time. And one of the big ones, everything else is kind of small, but the big one is that they're only taking one species of mushrooms and using it for their therapy program. And that's slightly controversial, I think, because psilocybin, or psilocybe, the whatever the thing above species, the family of psilocybe has about 200 plus species within it that are all hallucinogenic, are all psychoactive, and they're only taking psilocybe cubensis, which is the most popular, which is the one that we see the most. However, there are probably some people who are really into this who are like, well, what the hell? That's only one small portion of it. So this is definitely something that will probably change over time. It's something that they're going to start small with and then grow and expand from there. But they just want to start with a streamlined thing at first. All this is to say that it's exciting that this is finally getting up and running, and it's going to be so cool to see when this actually starts early next year, early 2023. I can't wait. I'll probably go up to Oregon and test it out. Second story is an interesting one because it's about FBI statistics, and we use that for a lot of things, especially in marijuana. We use marijuana arrests to see where things are happening, where things are growing, and especially states that have decriminalized what's going on there and where those funds are now being allocated, now that they're not being allocated to arresting marijuana people. But we have found, Marijuana Moment has kind of put together some charts that show there is actually some inconsistencies by county in places like Maryland where marijuana is decriminalized. For instance, in Montgomery County, they are counting citations for marijuana possessions as arrests. And then in the city of Baltimore, they're not counting those. So now we're left with these totally different number schemes here, and people are unsure as to which is the one to go with. So we have in Baltimore, after decriminalization happened in 2014, 2015, 500 arrests of marijuana, whereas in Montgomery, 3,600 arrests. And the arrests in Montgomery County have slowly been going down, but still are in the thousands, whereas in Baltimore in 2020, they only had 10. Because they're not counting the citations. So that could be a very big problem because we don't actually know how to allocate money and how to allocate resources because of these arrest reports. And if this is just Maryland, then it's probably a problem in a lot of other places too. So this just needs to be fixed and figured out. And apparently the Justice Department is looking into it, and they will soon figure it out. But it's just fascinating that it's been this long and we've had this discrepancy for so long. Finally, the woman of the hour is Laura Ingraham, who has kind of used the recent shootings to put a spotlight on marijuana legalization across the country. And I find this is an important topic to talk about because it's shedding a light on the fear-mongering that we're still seeing in the country. And her in particular is saying there's a pattern of the people who are doing these shootings, they have been pot smokers. And so she's saying that maybe maybe marijuana is the reason for them to kind of become psychotic and go and shoot up places. And that's obviously a huge leap of reason, but she's doing it, and there's not really much you can't do when you have your own show and you don't have people talking back at you. But anyway, here's a little clip.
Now, the American people are hearing a lot about AR-15s and background checks, but they also deserve to hear about this as well. Respected medical studies for years now have demonstrated that pot use, especially among teens, can trigger psychosis. and increase the chance that a young person will develop violent behaviors. The Association of Mature American Citizens writes, a 2017 study identified marijuana as the single most common correlative variable in otherwise diverse populations and circumstances surrounding the association of violence and marijuana. Reported links exist to shooters in Parkland, El Paso, Dayton, Aurora, Colorado, Tucson, Chattanooga, Sacramento, and perhaps elsewhere.
Now, of course, there's so many things you can say for this. You can say we are trying to combat that by making marijuana have a 21 age limit. You can't be under 21 to buy marijuana, and it's much easier to enforce that when it's a legal market than it is an illegal market. And you can say things like, look at the millions and millions of people in the country who are very big potheads who do not shoot up places. You can look at that. You can look at the many people who have not become psychotic from marijuana. Obviously, there's a lot to say there. There is, of course, a link between a potential of a psychotic break and heavy THC smoking of marijuana. There is that link, and there are studies that are showing that. There aren't enough done to really kind of make it solid enough for people to really kind of act upon it, but that is a link that we're seeing more and more happen, and it's worth looking into. But to make any actual leaps of reason here is absolutely insane and unfair. But again, it's important to look at this and be like, well, okay, if she's starting this, if she's putting it on Fox News and millions of people are watching this, then it's probably going to be a talking point that we're going to see more often in the days and months and years to come. And the fear-mongering, the reefer madness fear-mongering that we're seeing is not yet dissipated. It's still alive and well. Yeah, so those are the three stories. It's New Music Friday. We haven't done New Music Friday in a while. A new Angel Olsen album just came out today. It's called Big Time. I'm a little disappointed by it. I feel like I want her to raise her tempo in her albums. Her last two albums have been kind of like lower tempo, and I just want more diversity in her sound. I love her voice. I love her arrangements. I just want that like shut up, kiss me energy, the rock and roll energy that she used to put out and stuff. And so I miss that. And so I'm disappointed by this album, but it's still worth your time. It's still fascinating. She had a very rocky life happen in the past few years, so it's worth checking in and seeing what she's saying. And that's it. That's all we have this week, and I'll be back next week with some more marijuana stories. I'll see you then.